Are you like us? Tired of all the politically correct horseshit on podcasts and in the media? Need a podcast that's funny, smart, and gassy? It's not politically correct. It's just correct. This is the Carolina Underground. Throw that middle finger in the air. Raise them up. Because it's time to get loud, proud, and in your face. Generation X. Generation X. The best generation of all time meets the grit of the South. It's about everything and nothing at all. From current events to woolly boogers to movies to politics. Loud, brash, funny, and never, and I do mean never, predictable. The Carolina Underground with Mark and Mike.
Yo, roll, yo, roll. See what I did there? I combined both of them. So it's either yo, 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 or roll up, roll up. Welcome back to the Carolina Underground. We are back again, coming to you live from the replica Batcave with the air condition blowing, with my partner in high crimes and misdemeanors somewhere in the deep, dark depths of Sparkleberry, and he's already fired up and bitching, boys and girls. So let's just get right to it.
Oh, come on now. We don't want to set that up that way now, do we?
Well, I'm kind of confused.
All right.
When I go to my freezer
Yeah.
and I open the little door, that little light come on,
Mm-hmm.
and I see ice creams and vegetables. I prefer the ice cream, though. Who don't?
Yeah.
It's healthy. It's got milk and fruit in it. It's healthy. But I don't think of, I think of ice cream and stuff like that. I don't think of light.
Okay.
And, light, the last time I checked, is the fastest thing that we know. Is that still right, Mr. Scientific
So
World?
the speed of light is as fast as we're aware that anything can go.
Well,
Yeah.
them crazy Italians
Okay.
have succeeded in freezing light.
Well, now that's intriguing. What precisely do they mean by freezing light?
Well, what they said is it created a new state of matter, and it behaves like a super solid, which I had to look that up because I'm not very scientific, right? And that just means it moves like a super liquid or a super solid. They move with no friction. There is no friction. And they were able to keep it, and it can still flow, but it does without friction like a superfluid. And
Well,
it's just kind of amazing. They said it's
that's
something about particles, and it gets caught up in some kind of network of protons or something like that, and it just kind of freezes. And I think they had stopped it for like a few moments, but they think they actually remained frozen for, I think they said, over a minute this
huh.
time, and that's the first time that has supposedly ever happened.
Well, so I'm curious about okay, so when you say frozen, I'm immediately thinking of making something cold, and I
Yep.
can't fathom that you would be able to freeze light with anything above absolute zero. I'm going to have to read up on that because that does sound fascinating. A little bit of scientific ditty. Apparently, the South Koreans have managed to turn cancer cells back into normal cells.
Hmm.
Now that's an interesting one as well, but it's being kept relatively quiet, because obviously
Well, that's because the insurance companies ain't going to pay for it,
right,
and they're going to kill whoever's making it because it's more lucrative to treat
to treat than to cure.
than cure.
Every
But what
patient
they were
cured
saying,
is a customer lost to the
what they
pharmaceutical.
did evidently was they fired a laser into a special semiconductor platform, and it was made of aluminum, gallium arsenide, and it conducted electrons like in metal. And they said that when it, according to Science Daily, it took them over the first time they actually stopped it for a few seconds was like over a decade ago.
Mhm.
So it's taken them 10 years to get to where they were able to do that. And they used it's a glass like crystal that contains a low concentration of ions, and it turns this light into a kind of a wave that's trapped in the crystal lattice
Mhm.
inside this thing. And I just found that amazing because, again, because you know what? It won't be but a week or two, and they'll have us dad blame lightsabers, and we can just go around whacking people.
Well, I don't know about that, but it's an
Well, I
interesting
mean, you
concept.
think about it, the way it stays in the blade. I mean, how are we? George Lucas might have been way ahead of his time.
Well, that's been true of science fiction, true science fiction. Okay.
Well, the most accurate one's been The Simpsons,
Well, yeah, that's what there's a lot of prophetic stuff in The Simpsons, and it
and
makes
one
me
of
wonder
them
how they
is
do it.
one of them is a. I don't remember which episode it was, but it was the United States Army versus the Canadian Army. So
I don't watch
buckle
The
up,
Simpsons.
baby.
I don't watch The Simpsons. I stopped watching The Simpsons when I had a son because the first time that a young child tells me eat my shorts will be the last time. So I had
Or
to.
maybe that's South Park.
Well, now South Park does a lot of prophetic stuff too.
Yeah,
You know,
I'm thinking that the battle thing was South Park.
it very
I
well
get
could
them
have been.
mixed up. They're a bunch of irreverent little jackasses that you want to grab by the neck and squeeze them till their heads pop off.
Well, and again, South Park is constantly picking on Canada. I mean, they really are. So I
Well, I
would be
mean,
wouldn't be
hey,
surprised. Go ahead.
hey.
I'm not your guy, buddy. I'm not your buddy friend. I'm not your friend guy.
Well, I mean, Canada's like the west coast of the United States. They all live right along the border,
Oh yeah.
and that's just it. And you know what? I honestly thought that guy that in Ontario that's putting the 25% tariff on powder,
Mhm.
I thought he was a drug addict. But evidently, there's another guy that was in politics up there named Ford that was addicted to heroin and was the mayor of something. I don't know.
Well,
But hey, they say you up there with white powder, baby. It falls in the winter. It's just natural. He just thought it was snow.
could very well be the case. But, I mean, again, the thing of the matter is that, Canadians, Americans, Mexicans, Russians, doesn't matter. We're not the ones that can't get along with each other. It's the people that get enough power that they think they're important and are playing this massive game of King of the Hill, and they're
Mm-hmm.
the ones that get into these dust ups. Now, I mean, again, I 100% agree. And in my personal opinion is that we ought to set up so that all armies on the world, in the entire world, stand down, and when these national leaders get into a dust up, we put them into a boxing ring, and when they get done beating the crap out of each other, if we still want to fight after that, then the rest of us will get into the dust up. But I mean, again, it's just it. I just can't. I mean, again, the whole thing. Looking at the number of people that have died in Ukraine in this war between Russia and Ukraine, just because a bunch of people decided they wanted to bring Ukraine into NATO, which
Mm-hmm.
NATO really is not relevant. If they're going to bring Ukraine into NATO, they ought to bring Russia into NATO too. Okay.
Works for me.
I mean, it's just because NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, Ukraine ain't bordering the Atlantic.
Well, I saw a video.
You did.
eh, I did, and it had that man what's leading. Ukraine in it, and he's wearing these real tight leather breeches
Zelensky, yeah.
and a real tight leather shirt that showed off his boobies. And he was wearing high heels, gyrating his hips, looking like a damn whore.
Well, he might have actually done that. He was a
No, they
comedian at
said it
one
was
point.
real.
Yeah, he
That
was a
ain't being
comedian.
comedian. That's being a weirdo.
Well, from what I understand, his great big comedic, the thing that he did that everybody thought was so funny was he played the piano with his willy.
Hmm.
Okay. So, I mean, it doesn't surprise me at all. And that, of course, reminds me of the movie Idiocracy, which, it's one of those things. There's a lot of funny stuff in there, and there's a lot of stuff that's not so funny.
Mm-hmm.
It would have been, it really could, most of the
Is it
funny.
kind of along the lines of like Napoleon Dynamite and stuff like that?
Napoleon Dynamite did a better job of
Because I've never watched it.
what, Idiocracy or Napoleon Dynamite?
Both of them.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, I liked Napoleon Dynamite and I liked Idiocracy. But the problem is kind of, it kind of became, I mean, it's kind of more of a documentary of the Biden era than anything else. I mean, you just get all of these people just get stupider and stupider, and it's I'll talk. It's a good movie to watch, but it is very vulgar. It's there's a
Hey,
lot of very
well, we ought to
lowbrow
get them
humor.
on the show.
Those people make way too much money to talk to the likes of you and me.
Hmm. Well, that was kind of hurtful.
Yeah, but you can't deny the accuracy.
I want to ask you a question.
Oh Lord,
Have you ever heard of the quote that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery?
yes, I've heard it many times.
Okay. Do you know the whole quote?
Not necessarily. Do enlighten me.
Well, the rest of that part is, it's an Oscar Wilde quote, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And when they tell you that imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, they leave off the most important part, which is the last part of the sentence.
Okay.
And the last part of the sentence that he wrote was imitation is the sincerest form of flattery that mediocrity can pay to greatness.
Ooh.
So just leaving out part of the sentence
Changes it.
completely changes the context and the meaning
Oh yeah,
of that.
absolutely. I have never heard the last part, and I was not aware that that was an Oscar Wilde quote.
It is. It is Oscar Wilde.
Now, there's a corollary. My favorite quote is Santa Anna, where he said
Hmm.
that those who fail to learn from history are condemned to repeat it. But I prefer to attach that to a more recent corollary that I don't have. I don't know who generated it, but it's very accurate. And that is, but unfortunately, the rest of us are condemned to repeat history as well because there's so many of you stupid people out there that don't learn from history.
Well, that is true. We should turn this into like a self-help episode.
Oh Lord, I don't know.
I mean, I can help people. I'm good at it. I'm a good listener. I mean, I'll pretend I'm listening to you anyway.
Well, I hear you.
But I really want to give a shout out to God
Absolutely, amen.
because he was really on his game when he made taters. I I really like taters. They are so good. You can boil them, smash them, or stick them in a stew. I mean, what else do you want?
Well, and if you let them rot in the ground, you can have a famine as a result
Right,
of it.
well, that's true. But there's one thing about me and you that people have to understand, and they got to respect us for it.
I am on the
Everything,
edge of my seat. That, that build up, please enlighten me, good sir. Go ahead.
everything we do, be it talking on this podcast or to pissing y'all off, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, because you Republicans, y'all can be some assholes too. I mean, just face it.
Hmm.
Democrats ain't got the lock on assholes,
No, no,
but
absolutely not. But go ahead.
they have to admit that no matter what we are doing or what we're tackling, whether it's frozen light, when I'd rather the Italians just freeze some gelato instead of worrying about freezing light,
Hmm.
something like that. We do it with the confidence of a 4-year-old kid in a Batman t-shirt, baby. And we don't mess around.
That is true. I will have to give you that. Absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of confidence, yeah, that was when I was flying today, and I'm flying blindfolded because I'm working on my instruments and whatnot. We had a fellow that had
Oh,
just
you was in an airplane.
I'm
I do a whole different kind of flying.
a aeroplane, yeah. And a fellow was coming into the airport, and he had just bought this airplane, and as he was coming in, his landing gear wouldn't go down, or he didn't think his landing gear had come down. So we had to
Hmm.
stop my lesson and fly in behind him. And sure enough, his landing gear didn't come down and whatnot. So it was an eventful, eventful day there. But yeah, it takes a lot of confidence to do anything that requires. Oh, that's right. Well, now a Batman T-shirt doesn't let you fly.
Oh,
So
don't
my bad. I'm sorry.
Superman can't be brave though.
That's true. You can't be brave if you can't be hurt.
Exactly. That's the
Yeah.
whole point.
So yeah, but but
And there's another thing they need to realize about us too,
what's that?
that we are not smartasses. We are skilled, trained professionals, and we point out the obvious. And our most fluent language is sarcasm and sign language.
Okay, that's a
Hey,
that's
I'm
a
giving you
mouthful.
pearls of wisdom here, baby.
Well, you're giving me something, and I'm not entirely certain if it's going to turn into heartburn or not. But when you bring up again, no, politicians, period. I mean, there's the whole thing amongst the Democrats and Republicans is people treat them like they're sports teams. And, I mean, again, I look at people like Chucky Schumer and Mitch McConnell. I mean, these people that have done absolutely nothing in their lives but be a politician.
Now, wait a minute.
Go ahead.
I saw Chuck Schumer grilling them hamburgers, and he was getting ready to give somebody some kind of foodborne illness with them rascals.
Oh yeah, they were raw as they could be. But I mean, again, and these, and people get behind these folks like they're, like they're quarterback of their favorite football team, and they're not. And most of them are despicable human beings, and it astounds me. Now, the Republicans currently are doing a pretty good job of giving the impression that they have the American citizenry at their heart. And I'm talking specifically about the federal government. And the federal government, is getting ready to shut down tonight at midnight. Okay, because we're
I
not.
mean, ain't nobody gonna be able to tell they shut down. Don't nobody care.
That's the point. And if the federal government was doing the things that the federal government is supposed to be doing, and not a whole bunch of other crap that they're not supposed
Hmm.
to be doing. Okay. For example, I heard somebody compare today the amount of money the federal government paid for gender transition surgery and medication compared to the amount of money the federal government was paying for Viagra. Now, federal government ain't got no business paying for either one of those.
No,
None whatsoever. Federal government is supposed to maintain the common
I
defense.
Jeffrey Tubin might be the one for Viagra though. I hear he likes doing it on business calls, WebExes and stuff.
Well, the whole point of the matter is they got no business doing it. And the stuff that they're supposed to be doing shouldn't be enough to amount to a full-time job for most of these people. Okay?
Well, I mean, I get bored sitting there not having nothing to do, so I don't see how they can just sit there continually and never do anything and want to keep doing it.
Well, but what they want to keep doing is they want to keep enriching themselves, which right now, as I understand it, with the stock market having been in decline as long as it has, now would be a great time to get the find out what stocks Nancy Pelosi is buying,
Hmm.
because she's the one that does the most, that is most famous for insider trading.
I'm gonna give you a factoid,
Hit me with a
and she's
factoid,
talking about like since she was talking about the stock market and all that stuff.
right?
If the world's 10 richest men
Hmm.
lost 99.999% of their wealth,
Hmm.
they would still be richer than 99% of the global population.
Well, and I say we should just absolutely do it. We should take away 99.9% of their wealth and
Well,
redistribute it.
now, wait a minute. Now, you smacking them socialisms.
Well,
You
but
still got
see,
one of them isms.
no, but and I hear what you're saying, but the fact of the matter is that, you know, the vast majority of the people that own the world. I mean, there's 11 families that basically own the planet. Okay. And you don't know most of their names. There's one or two of them that you'll know, but not many. And they've had that family, their families have had that money, that wealth for so many generations. It came from, it's ill-gotten gains. Okay. If only those people, I guarantee you those people aren't that special and that wonderful that they figured out a way to, with the myriad of laws and regulations that the common folk have to wade through,
Hmm.
just to drive your own damn car. There's no way that they got there without some malarkey, okay, and some shenanigans. So, but at any rate,
Ooh, you on them shenanigans.
shenanigans, my friend, I'm telling you. But, again, it's one of those, and another thing that struck me just today was one of these medications for itch. Okay. It was some kind of
Gold bond,
psoriasis.
baby. Gold bond.
Well, no, but this was some medication, I don't know, I don't even remember what it is, but it was one of them, because most of those commercials that you see halfway through, I'm going, what the hell is this medication supposed to be for? How am I supposed to know if I need it? Because I don't know what they're doing. You're just seeing all of these people living a wonderful life and wandering around and having a great time. And, but then they start reading off all of the stuff. Well, this one actually figured out it had something to do with some kind of psoriasis type itch.
Hmm. Is
And
it the
they
one with
got,
the kids when they're reaching the hand down into the petting pool at like the aquarium?
I don't recall because I wasn't paying attention to it. When commercials come on, I immediately get up and walk into another room and start doing something else, so that, because I'm way over marketed to as it is. But, I was listening to the side effects, and it's like anal bleeding, uh you know severe diarrhea. So you can either
Sounds, hey,
itch.
sounds like a night with Elton John and Freddie Mercury.
I'm telling you, you can either have an itch or you can crap yourself to death. I mean,
Well, then, because like on one of them, they were talking about that you would have that, or you would have a extreme pains between your genitals and your rectum.
yeah, it's stuff like
And
that.
I'm like, what in the world?
So
Why even put it on market? I mean, why even? I mean, just why?
it
Why?
reminds me of the joke about the man had a headache for 10 years, and his doctor tried absolutely everything, and he's in there and he's just an unbearable headache, and he's talking to his doctor, and the doctor says, well, we've tried everything except for one radical surgery that we could do, but it's a possibility. It's the only thing we haven't tried. And the guy says, well, what do we have to do? He says, well, we have to cut your nuts off. Man thought about it for a minute, and he said, you know what, I hate to do that, but I just can't take this pain anymore. So of course they castrate him, and he heals up, and lo and behold, the headache's gone away. And then he's
Mm-hmm.
walking down the street and he feels so good. He's so happy. He says, you know what? It has been a long time. I'm going to treat myself to a new suit. So he goes into a tailor shop and starts talking to the tailor. Tailor looks at him for a few minutes, sizes him up, and says, okay, well, you're going to be a 44 long. He said, man, that is amazing. How in the world could you just look at me? He didn't even take a single measurement. And he said, I'm a tailor. I've been a tailor for 25 years. It's my profession. I'm really good at it. I just know this stuff. So he says, all right. He picks out the fabric, all that stuff, and he's
Mm-hmm.
looking at him, sizing him up, and he says, well, okay, so you're going to be let's see, your pants are going to be a 36, 30 inseam. And he says, aha, you messed up. Or excuse me, a 32 inseam. He says, aha, you messed up. He said, I've been a 30 inseam since I was a kid. I've worn a 30 inseam. And he says, no, your legs are too short. If you have your inseam that high, it'll put pressure on your nuts and you'll get a headache. I butchered the joke, but at any rate,
Well,
sorry.
I get the thing, but I personally have suffered from headaches,
Have you
and it
gone to a
was about
tailor?
10 years. I hadn't been to a tailor, but I found the next best thing. I bought another house and moved her ass in over there, and I ain't had a headache since.
My goodness. Well,
I have started watching this new TV show. Well, I don't take it back. It ain't new. It's probably been out years.
mhm,
I have been watching The Bad Batch on Disney. The Bad Batch, The
yeah.
Bad Bunch,
Mhm,
something. It's a Disney cartoon about what happens, I guess, after or right before and after Order 66.
mhm.
And I have really been impressed with that. There is that Dave Filoni. I don't know if he's the one that's writing it or directing it or whatever he's doing, but that is actually a very good. I mean, the story is actually very good, and and I don't know if it's just that I'm more brilliant and I genius more at night than I do during the day because I just sit around geniusing because that's what I do.
All right.
But it really is kind of when you start talking about it. I had never thought about it from the clones' perspective. Like,
Hmm.
what happened when they got older? Did they get a pension? But
No, no.
they was just gonna kill them.
Yeah.
And something else? It took me forever and a day to realize.
No.
In
Tell
Star
me.
Wars.
Mhm.
Well, listen. I'm getting to it.
I'm listening.
In Star Wars, you got this boy who goes out in space and he blows up this big ball, right?
Hmm.
Well, in the Empire Strikes Back, they go to a whole nother city.
Hmm.
When we come back to Return of the Jedi, we got the Death Star again,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Do you know that's not the same Death Star?
Yeah.
Well, see, I didn't know that. All this time, I thought that damage when you looked at the one in Return of the Jedi, I just thought that was where the first one got blowed up and that's fixing it back up.
Well, I mean, that was just my assumption, because of the explosion when they blew up the original. I mean, that was
Well,
pretty nasty explosion.
it could have been salvageable. I mean, everything is salvage. I mean, we'll just give it a great title, you know, stuff like that. Slightly used. Like there's this car got advertised and showed up in my inbox today.
Hmm.
54,000 miles. It's beautiful. Car's ugly as sin. It's tan.
Hmm.
Wonderful shape. $16,000.
Hmm.
It's a 1985 Ford Crown Victoria.
Oh my goodness.
But I will tell you this.
Hmm.
Whoever buys that Ford Crown Victoria, they're going to love them seats because it's got them big fluffy seats in it.
Oh yeah, yeah. Yeah. Well, and that's, they used, I mean, cars used to be, I mean, well, of course, now everybody's got to have heated seats and all of that stuff. And yeah, I know you
I,
like heated
I,
seats, but
no, that's
again,
not, I didn't go and get them for me.
oh, I
My
know.
little baby dog, she sometimes she's just temperamental and she likes to be pampered. And,
Hmm.
whatever little baby wants, she got a Gucci coat. She's got a
Hmm.
Gucci collar. She won't wear them. She just likes looking at them. She's just hanging them in the closet. She don't wear them. She just looks at them. But
Hmm.
she likes them heated seats. And I'll tell you one thing. on a cold, rainy day, there ain't nothing better to feel that heat shoot up your ass.
Well, but I'm here to tell you they go bad. And I've been in a vehicle where it's gone bad and driving down the road and I'm getting shocked in the back and in the butt because the heated seats is shorted out. So
Now that could be a problem.
yes, it is. But again, that's the auto industry. They don't want you to keep a car past a
They
couple of
want you to
years.
get a 1985 Ford Crown Victoria.
No, I don't think they want you to get that Crown Victoria. But it's, the one thing about it is you could work on that and you could work on it in the rain and stand underneath the hood most likely and not
Hmm.
get wet.
And it's got a 302 V8 in it.
I don't doubt it. You need,
That
well,
was back when they made real cars. Well,
yeah, it's
that
made
was
out
the
of
funny
metal.
thing. It's like you had like, and this is back when, and I don't know how in the world we got on this, but Ford F-150. That was back when the F-150 was the king vehicle in the United States. Period. There was
Yeah.
hands down it was the best. But
Well,
then we were talking about that today, and or said something about it, and I was like, well, you got to understand, up until they got into this green crap, the base motor in a Ford pickup truck was a 300 cubic inch inline six
yes, sir.
that you couldn't blow up.
Yeah, you could not break those. And you could take that dadgum vehicle into places that God didn't mean a vehicle to go. I had an
Mhm. Well, and the
F100.
V8's only 2 cubic inches bigger than the inline six.
I know I had an F100 which was what preceded it had a smaller carburetor than the
Hmm.
150. It had less displacement, but no, it had the same displacement, the same inline six, strong arm six, and
Yep.
that and it was just not quite. I mean, it was the same size as the 150 in those days,
Hmm.
but that. Matter of fact, that was the last year they made it a 100 before they started making the Ranger instead.
Hmm.
But it was the highway uh, gas sipping instead of gas guzzling version of the 150. And man, you could do stuff in that truck.
I want to ask you
It
a
amazed
question.
me. Go ahead, ask me a question.
Well, you keep hearing about all these tariffs and
Yes,
all
sir.
this stuff, and
Hmm.
Canada was had tariffs up to 200 and some percent on some goods based on how much was coming in from this country,
Yep.
from our country to their country, and all this
Hmm.
stuff.
Hmm.
Have you actually ever looked at the products? I can't think of one thing I ever bought that ever come out of Canada.
No, everything we buy is manufactured in China, pretty much. But the thing of the matter is, what everybody has to sit back and realize is that the United States is the consumer base that drives the entire world. Our purchase, that's why we are so constantly bombarded with everything telling us, buy this, buy that, buy. You got to have this, you got to have that, you got to have this, you got to have that, because we purchase more goods in this country than any place else in the world. Everybody that wants to be in the most lucrative market wants to sell their goods in the United States. And I mean, again, the other thing that you got to think about is how many other nations on the planet take their citizens' taxpayer dollars and spend them in other countries or give it to other countries, give them money. None of them do it for the United States. We are the financial and consumer powerhouse of the planet. Okay. So
Hmm.
if if we're putting a tariff on your country's goods coming in, it's going to hurt you significantly more than it's going to hurt us. And what it's going to do for us, anything that we can't get here, it will bring that manufacturing back to the United States, which needs to happen. And first, the textile industry needs to come back to the United States. okay, or at least have a foothold here. The electronics industry needs to come back to the United States and have a foothold here.
Well, one of those superconductors, I think, announced that they were getting ready to invest like $500 billion,
Mm-hmm. And that's
which
fine.
would be nice.
But I mean, again, we've still got subsidies on the books encoded in law in the United States where we pay subsidies to to shepherds who grow sheep so that we have enough wool to make uniforms. We hadn't made uniform. Well, we still made the knit caps and sweaters and stuff like that out of wool and pea coats. All right. Because, we had to wear those scratchy things and they did keep you warm, but Lord, you feel like there were ants all
Hey,
over you the whole time.
the damn sheep stayed warm, didn't it?
Yeah, they did. But
If it's good enough for the sheep, it's good enough for me.
we recognized that if another nation is doing your manufacturing for you or growing your sheep for their wool for you, then you're dependent on them. And a sovereign nation should not be dependent on any other sovereign nation because that's what leads to war. I have spoken.
I'm just kind of wondering what flavor Frozen Light is. Is that strawberry?
I imagine it would vary with color.
I think I want some ice cream.
Well, I can tell it's on your mind.
It is. Hey, you know what? With that,
Would.
that's it. That we're gonna just call it.
Fair enough.
I'm gonna tell you what. We're gonna leave y'all. We said this was gonna be a self-help episode where we're gonna start giving you information to help yourself. And for all y'all people listening, I want y'all to understand, and this is coming from my heart to your heart, from Mark's heart to your heart. I mean, ours like work together because they're like cooked together and stuff, and it's back and forth like that because we two birds of a feather and we flocking together, baby.
All right. I'm really tense to hear what you have to say at this point.
And this goes out to our brothers in Canada, our brothers in Russia. I don't really count Hamas in the Middle East because they're a bunch of little cockroaches, except for Israel. And all them other people around the world. You need to understand one thing and one thing only. And this will, if you can get this down, your life will be so much easier. And the simple fact of the matter is this: a fuck must be earned. We can't walk around with a bucket of fucks just giving them out to everybody. And if we feel like that you have earned a fuck, we will give it to you. And with that, that's the snout to the curly 12. And you can have a fuck off tonight. And we go.
Have a good night.
All right, you crazy bunch of motherfuckers. Wait, can we say mother? Anyway, you've been listening to the Carolina Underground. It isn't politically correct, it's just correct. Our motto is, if you can't go balls deep, don't go at all. Actually, that's not our motto, and I'm sorry, I don't even know what that meant. All right, we gotta go. We hope you enjoyed the show. And if you didn't, we hope it really pissed you off. Follow us on Twitter at Carolina UNDGRND Underground, get it? Or drop us an email at Carolina UNDGRND, get it? At northstate.net. We want to hear from you. Y'all be cool. See you next time on Carolina Underground.